Deep in the heart of a remote forest lies a place shrouded in darkness and fear. They call it the Devil's Playground, and it's said to be haunted by a malevolent presence. Some say it whispers your name when no one's around. Others claim to have seen shadows that move against the wind or heard screams coming from places where no living soul could survive. This isn't just folklore. These are real accounts from hikers, rangers, families, and thrill seekers who dared to enter and came back forever changed. In this video, we bring you 5 chilling stories from the Devil's Playground, a lost hiker who returned different, a family trip that ended in frozen silence, a ranger's final log never meant to be read, a night in a cabin that seemed to scream, and a circle of stones that still calls to children. Prepare yourself. These stories are true, disturbing, and not for the faint of heart. There are places on this earth where the rules of reality seem to bend, where time warps, and where people come back different. This is a story of one such place. Deep inside a forest locals dare not name aloud. They call it the Devil's Playground. And this is where Daniel Harris disappeared. Daniel wasn't the type you'd peg as a thrill seeker. He was 34, quiet, recently divorced, and trying to piece his life back together. Hiking became his therapy. The farther he walked into nature, the more the weight of his life seemed to lift. On September 12, 2020, Daniel set off alone to explore a part of forest land in the Pacific Northwest he hadn't visited before. It was remote, unmarked on most public maps, but rumored among backcountry hikers. They whispered about strange lights, vanishing wildlife, and the air that felt too still. Daniel didn't buy into local legends until he became one. He parked a Subaru near a logging trail and sent a text to his sister before entering the woods. "Out here, clearing my head. Don't worry, I'll be back before sunset." That was the last anyone heard from him. The search began 24 hours later when Daniel failed to return calls. Local police, forest rangers, and volunteer rescue teams combed the area. Drones flew overhead. Dogs tracked his scent but lost it near a stream that wound into thicker forest. For 3 days there was nothing. No footprints. No gear. No body. Then, on the morning of day 4, Daniel walked out of the woods. He was barefoot. His eyes were bloodshot and wide. He was covered in scratches. His clothes were torn and wet. And he held a pine cone like it was something sacred. When rescuers rushed to him, he recoiled at first, mumbling something unintelligible. He was taken to hospital and checked for dehydration, exposure, and possible psychological trauma. But here's where things got strange. Daniel showed no signs of starvation or dehydration. Not a single insect bite. His feet were cut, but he hadn't bled much. And his vitals were, according to doctors, perfectly normal. Too normal. He refused to speak for 48 hours. When he finally did, all he said was, "Asterisk, I wasn't alone." His sister pressed him. Who had he seen? Another hiker? Animals? Daniel shook his head and whispered, "Asterisk, the forest watches, and it waits." From that day on, Daniel was different. Friends said he became distant, like part of him never came back. He moved to a small town 3 states away and cut off most contact. But he left behind something chilling. In his old journal, tucked under his bed, was an entry dated the night before his disappearance. It read, "Asterisk, if I don't come back, tell them the stories are true. There's something in that forest that sees you, and if it wants you, it takes something from you. Maybe not your life, but something you can't get back." No one knows exactly what happened to Daniel Harris during those 3 days. But those who've read his journal, who've stood near the Devil's Playground trailhead and felt the pressure in the air, believe one thing. Some people get lost in the woods. Others bring something back with them. Would you dare to step into the devil's playground? And if you did, what do you think you'd come back as? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Some vacations change lives. Some erase them. In July 2009, the Westbrook family, Mark, his wife Lynn, their teenage daughter Emily, and 10-year-old son Jamie, set off on what was supposed to be a final summer camping trip before Emily left for college. Mark, a geology teacher, had read online about a secluded forest clearing deep in Oregon, known among a small circle of survivalists as a place untouched by time. What he didn't know was that locals called it something else, the Devil's Playground. They arrived late afternoon and set up camp beside a shallow creek. The place was eerily quiet, not peaceful, but empty. No birds, no insects, just stillness. That night, they built a campfire and roasted marshmallows, laughing under stars. Jamie said the fire looked wrong. The flames burned cold blue, not warm orange. Mark brushed it off, joking about minerals in the wood. Lynn didn't laugh. She said she heard something behind the trees, like a voice whispering, but when she turned, no one was there. Emily captured a short video on her phone of the fire. In the footage, when slowed down, a figure can be seen standing far behind her. Too tall, too still. At 2:13 a.m., the Westbrooks vanished. The family was reported missing 2 days later. Park rangers found their campsite undisturbed. Tent still up, food untouched, Emily's phone beside her sleeping bag, battery dead. But the fire pit was strange. The ashes were ice cold. Beneath it, the soil was burned straight down several feet, as if something had tunneled up or out. Search teams scoured the forest for weeks. Helicopters, K-9 units, nothing. Then on August 9th, exactly 1 month later, Mark was found 17 miles south, barefoot, filthy, and clutching a charred camping fork. He was alone. He had no memory of the night they vanished, just fragments, whispers in the woods, Emily screaming his name, a hand that wasn't human grabbing his ankle beneath the tent. Mark was never charged. There was no evidence of foul play. He spent the rest of his life in and out of psychiatric care, often staring blankly and muttering, "It burns, but it's cold, so cold." Emily, Lynn, and Jamie were never found. Years later, a hiker found Emily's phone in a streambed miles from the site. The last video on it had never been accessed. 12 seconds long. In the darkness, the camera shakes violently, and a distorted voice can be heard saying, "Stay with us." The screen cuts to black. No one can explain what happened that night. But those who camp near the area say their fires sometimes turn cold blue, and that if you listen closely after midnight, you can hear footsteps circling your tent. Do you believe some places are never meant to be visited? If this happened to your family, would you still go camping? Share your thoughts below. We're listening. Forests don't forget, and some trees remember everything. Thomas Rayleigh was a forest ranger with over 25 years of experience patrolling the wildest parts of the Pacific Northwest. A respected figure among his peers, he was known for being skeptical of ghost stories and urban legends. That was until he took an assignment to monitor a remote part of forest where people whisper about a cursed section called the Devil's Playground. In his final field report, dated September 3rd, 2012, he wrote, "Something's not right. No birds, no insects, no tracks. It's too quiet. I feel watched. I'll hike deeper tomorrow." He never made the next day's log. His abandoned truck was found days later at the end of an overgrown fire trail. Inside were his journal, GPS, and a half-eaten sandwich. The GPS showed a strange movement pattern. From his last known position, he had walked in circles for over 2 hours, despite clear terrain, as if he couldn't escape. Search teams found something even more disturbing. A 16-foot circle of scorched earth deep in the forest, where the ground was blackened and the pine needles had turned to ash. In the center was Ranger Rayleigh's hat. Nothing else. But the strangest part? Infrared trail cams Rayleigh had set up for wildlife detection captured something. One frame, taken at 3:17 a.m., showed a tall, human-like silhouette standing behind a tree. The next frame, nothing. The third, the same figure closer, its proportions off, its limbs too long, and its head tilted unnaturally to the side. Then static. Rayleigh's final handwritten note, scribbled on a torn corner of his journal, was found lodged into a crevice of the tree line near the burned circle. It read, "The trees move when you're not looking. It wears the forest like a coat. It doesn't like to be followed." I saw its eyes. There were too many. To this day, no one knows what happened to Thomas Rayleigh. Several rangers assigned to the area since have reported missing time, nausea, and in one case, seeing a shadow that blocked the stars. Do you believe something ancient still lives deep in our forests? Or are some places cursed by the stories we tell? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. It was meant to be a digital detox. Just a quiet weekend in a rustic cabin, tucked miles deep into a national forest known for its beauty, and more recently, its disturbing legends. Aaron and Michael were both software engineers in Seattle, burnt out from work and the noise of city life. They rented the cabin from a listing that described it as off-grid, peaceful, and perfect for couples. What it didn't mention was that it sat near the outer boundary of an area locals refused to enter, the Devil's Playground. The first day was uneventful. They cooked over a fire pit, played cards by candlelight, and laughed about the lack of cell service. But as night fell, everything shifted. The sound of the forest, birds, insects, rustling leaves, stopped. Complete silence. Then the screaming started. Not human, not animal, something in between. It started faint, from deep in the woods, but each hour it grew closer. And the screams, they repeated in the exact same pattern every time, like a recording playing over and over. By 2:13 a.m., the screams were right outside the cabin. Michael, heart racing, peeked through the window. There was no one there, but he could feel someone watching. Aaron clutched his arm, whispering, "Something's breathing on the floor." They pressed their ears to the wooden slats. And sure enough, a slow, ragged inhale. And then a pause. Then a voice, guttural and wrong, whispering from beneath, "This is my home." Panicked, they bolted to the car, only to find every tire slashed. They spent the rest of the night huddled in the cabin's corner, knives in hand, lights off, praying for sunrise. Come morning, the forest came alive again. Birds sang, bugs buzzed, and the air felt lighter. But the ground beneath the cabin was warm. Erin swears she saw something shift beneath the soil as they ran. They never went back, and when the listing was reported, it was removed within 24 hours. No contact, no trace, as if the cabin never existed. Have you ever felt a place push back, like it didn't want you there? Share your story below. We're listening. In the farthest stretch of the Devil's Playground, where the canopy grows too thick for light to break through, there lies a ring of weathered stones. No signs, no trails lead to it. It appears to you, only if it wants to. Locals say it was once a site for pagan rituals, or older still, something not meant for human memory. Whatever its origin, one fact remains. Children who find the circle never forget it. Logan, a single father and forest ranger, was camping with his 7-year-old daughter, Ellie, during a long weekend. It was their first trip, since her mother passed. He hoped nature would help them both heal. On the second morning, Ellie vanished. He searched the surrounding woods, calling her name until his throat went raw. Just as panic turned to terror, he heard giggling, distant, strange, but definitely her voice. He followed the sound, deeper than he'd ever ventured. Then he saw it, a perfect ring of moss-covered stones. In the center stood Ellie, hands at her sides, smiling vacantly. He shouted her name. She didn't respond. As he stepped into the circle, an icy jolt shot through his body. The woods dimmed, as if color was being drained from the world. He reached for Ellie, and then she whispered, "They told me you can't come in here." Logan pulled her out, heart pounding. As soon as they stepped beyond the ring, she collapsed unconscious. When she awoke at camp, she didn't remember the circle. But for weeks after, she would wake in the middle of the night, sit up in bed and whisper, "Daddy, they're calling me again." They moved across the country, but she still hears the voices. And Logan, he never found that circle again, though he searched. Would you risk stepping into a place the forest doesn't want you to leave? Let us know in the comments. Some stories stay with us forever. Some forests echo with birdsong and wind, but not this one. In the Devil's Playground, the silence hums with something else. Something watching, waiting. The stories you just heard may seem unbelievable, but those who told them carry the fear in their eyes to this day. Whether it's cursed land, ancient energy, or just a cruel trick of the mind, one thing is certain. This place leaves a mark. Do you believe there are places this world was never meant to touch? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more true horror stories from the world's darkest corners, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales Nameless. We bring fear to light, one chilling tale at a time.